You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. This episode is sponsored by one of my favorite humans on the planet and one of the top listeners of this show, Stan the Man McCluskey, for his awesome audiobook, Divorce is Worse Than Death. You can check him out on episode 292.5. The link will be in the show notes. And also, yours truly is the voice behind the audiobook version of the book. So after you're done listening to this, or while you're listening to this, go on ahead, head over to audible.com. Click on the wonderful link, purchase that audiobook by yours truly, and support my man Stan. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North podcast. And we got one heck of a super special, awesome human for you today because my goodness, we got an ILM, y'all. That's right, an ILM. What the heck is that, Dom? It's an international leadership mentor. Not only that, she's the author of 13 books. You heard that right, folks. 13 books. That's right. That's right indeed. She's got 6 more than Friday, y'all. That's right. The host of her own #1 ranked and featured blog talk radio show, a media expert, and a keynote speaker for organizations around the world. So let's give it up for Miss MS herself, the marvelous and sensational Marnie Swedberg. How you doing today, Marnie?
Hey, Dom. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely got to have you on. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Always great to highlight fellow Christian entrepreneurs and, especially the ladies helping out the other ladies, kick some magical behind, some tail, some quail out there in the world.
Some beautiful tushes.
Not all the tushes are beautiful, though. I'm just saying.
Well, to God, they all are. Come on now.
That's right. God doesn't make junk. You're right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, my goodness. So, I know you had a Christian upbringing. So, what led you to jump into entrepreneurship?
I don't know. I must have been born for it because I had my first business before. I just got out of high school and started a business, and so I've always been really entrepreneurial. And what's really fun now is that my husband's also entrepreneurial, and our kids are entrepreneurial, and so they're adults now. It is so fun to see this mindset of not what can I do inside of someone else's things, but what can I do to bring others into a new thing. And so that's why I love entrepreneurship, because you can't do entrepreneurship. You can't say, okay, I'm going to do exactly what, say, McDonald's did. I'm going to do exactly that. There's already one of those. So when you become an entrepreneur, you actually are thinking about a new idea or a new angle or a hole in the market that hasn't been fit yet. And so that's what I love to help women identify is where are you, whether it's Dom, whether it's a book or a podcast or a speaking tour or whatever it is, where is it that something is needed that God has given you the answer to? And that's what we're all here to do. And whether it's in a business or whatever it is, that's what we're here to do.
That's what we're here to Mountain Dew, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. It's always great when you can combine faith principles with business, basically, and actually do that, because at the end of the day, we're just really finding holes to fill, especially as entrepreneurs, just find those holes to fill those wonderful cavities and all that wonderful good stuff. And speaking of cavities, I forgot. So, my goodness, so with being an entrepreneur and being a Christian, what was probably the most difficult thing about really combining the two, even though you've probably been a Christian your whole life, right?
Yeah, I accepted Christ when I was 4 years old. I realized at 4 years old, that I was a sinner. I was naughty. I needed help. So, you don't have to be a theologian to trust God. He just is there for you. Whenever you realize you need him, he's there for you. The hardest thing combining Christianity with business. I don't know if I've had trouble doing that. I think one of the things that has been a bit of a challenge, not really hard, but I had to think about it differently. When I speak in corporate or government situations, I can't use Bible and, verses. I can't say, in Psalm, 91:4, I can't do that. But what I find is that even with that, wherever I go, there Jesus is, right? Because he's going with me. So I don't really have to actually say the Bible verse in order to communicate the biblically solid, godly success principles that he's teaching. And so I guess if there was something hard, maybe that would have been it, but I don't think so. I haven't ever been asked because I haven't, and I think it's a little different too. When you're an entrepreneur, you actually get to set the rules that by which you serve people. Whereas when you're in corporate, you're actually asked sometimes to do things that are, not right. When you're doing it yourself, you actually get to decide what you're going to do. So I think that it's maybe easier being an entrepreneur, Christian.
Ah, love it. Love it indeed. Love it indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right. Some powerful stuff right there. You get to set your own rules, indeed. Get to set your own rules, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. And heck, even another powerful thing you say, you don't need to be a theologian to know that you need Jesus, y'all. I'm telling you. That's right. You don't need to read like the Bible from cover to cover 50 times before finding Jesus. You don't have to go to seminary and read like Josephus like 30 times. You just have to know in your heart. You have to ask him to come into your heart, y'all, and then live a different life afterwards. So my goodness, so setting those wonderful rules, I'm pretty sure there have been some wonderful trap doors that have appeared in your life. I know you've gone through quite a few of them with grief and heck, even I believe a car accident on top of that. So my goodness, so how was it dealing with those setbacks that came along the way to still really stay where you are today and thrive where you are today?
Wow, there's been just so many, so many challenges, fires and floods and a tornado and a sinking boat and several car wrecks and hospitalizations in my immediate family, a head injury, sudden death, cancer. I mean, it's just kind of, the list goes on and on. Everybody has their own lists of things that were hard in your life. We all have our own list. But what I have come to find, and more and more and more, and even a new realization now, even just in the last month again, is that God uses everything. And even to the point where in the last month now, I recognize that. So I'm planning a big summit for women, and it's going to be it's an international summit. It's online, and it's just going to be amazing. There's over 60 speakers and all this, so it's a lot of work. And I'm stepping out in a way that I haven't done exactly like this before. And I am feeling the spiritual interference. I'm feeling just strange things are happening that aren't normal, and I'm pretty aware of things usually. So I know that when they come all at once like this, sometimes I just say out loud, nice try, or or I have a friend who taught me this one in the morning to just get up and say, Satan's about to have a very bad day. So I love that
I
one.
like that one.
I love that one too. And but I have noticed though, in the last month of a lot more interference than normal, that God uses everything. So I was in a conversation. We had to start 10 minutes late because of interference. And then my entire system crashed. So we ended early. We ended this conversation. It was a coaching call. We ended this conversation with the gal I was talking to in tears, because she was having a spiritual moment where she was recognizing something in her life. And it ended by my computer crashing. And then I had another meeting right after that, and I couldn't get back to her. Sent her a note afterwards and just said, if you are too sad or too hurt or too whatever, you don't have to reschedule. But otherwise, let's continue this conversation. She booked another appointment. And by the time we got to that second appointment, God had given me the exact word she needed. I didn't have it the first time. And what felt like interference to me, and actually was interference, what felt bad to me in that moment was actually good, because it changed where we went in the conversation, allowed her to get crystal clear about what was the next step going forward. I realized just recently now that just like God used Satan in the story of Job to help us understand how to deal with difficulties, so God can use evil in our lives to bring good. And in fact, I even personalized it way down so that no matter how badly I'm doing, Dom, he can use me. It isn't about my performance. It's because he is God that good stuff happens. And that's huge. I mean, because we're all so worried about doing well and performing well and pleasing him, and all that's great and everything, but that's not his heart. His heart is to know us, to love us, to live through us.
Oh, say it again, preach. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And yeah, that spiritual interference definitely can be rough because at least at the moment it happens, if you're not used to it,
Ah,
especially when you're new into the walk, especially as the adulting years start to happen. It's like, oh wow, these things just keep mounting on me. Like I'm supposedly mounting on it. Ain't that what Mountain Dew's for? And it's like, darn. Like, darn, don't have the clarity now. But it's like, it's just one of those moments where it's like, hey, if you have the mindset to realize, oh yeah, this is just a spiritual interference thing. Just need to really change directions, do a little more prayer, a little more focus, and realize, oh, maybe I just needed some more clarity about what to say to this person or how to handle the situation better. So I gotta love it.
whatever God's going to do, right? Yeah, I remember the first day I really learned this, the spiritual interference thing. It was the first time I had ever done an online summit. It was called Bible Study Expo. It was way back. And I was going to have 24 authors of new Bible study books for women come on during a period of a week. And we were going to do these interviews online and, explain what the Bible studies were to all the planners that I work with. And it was really exciting. It was a lot of work to put together. And I get to the morning of the first day of the expo, and I'm just going about my thing, and the phone rings, and it is my manager at our store. We owned a store and a restaurant at the time, as well as the online stuff. And it was the manager of the store. And she said, Marnie, I have to take my daughter to the emergency room. Can you cover? And I'm like, sure. Yeah. Is she okay? I don't know. I'll let you know as soon as we know anything. So I said, sure, absolutely. Just get back when you can. So I'm getting ready to walk out the door to go and cover at the store until we can get somebody else to cover. And as I'm walking out the door, the phone rings again. And I thought I better grab it in case it's her. So I went back in and I grabbed it, and it wasn't her. It was the clerk of court in our county. And the clerk of court said, where are you? And I said, well, I'm at home. You just called me. And she said, you're in contempt of court. And I said, well, how can I be in contempt of court? And she said, you have jury duty today. And I said, no way. I said, I never even got a notification. I said, and on top of that, when I got the notification, I might be on jury duty for 3 months. There was a note in there. Is there any time that you cannot be available? And I said, this week. She goes, well, what's so important about this week? And I said, well, I'm doing this expo. I've got 24 authors, and it's a big online thing, and there's, thousands of people. And it's really a tough week for me. But I mean, honestly, literally, I did not get the announcement. She said, well, all I know, Marnie, is that you are in contempt of court right now. I will talk to the judge about this, but you need to get here. And I said, okay, here's my deal. Just when you called, I was on the way out the door to the store that we own, because my manager's taken her daughter to the emergency room. And because I own the store, I have to go and cover for her. So when you call me back, don't call me at this number, call me at that number, because I'll be there by then. She's like, okay. She took down the number. So I go out to the garage, and I go and I hit the garage door opener. And guess what, Dom? It doesn't work.
Oh.
And so I thought, I know what to do. So I crawled on top of my car, and I grabbed that little emergency handle that's going to open the door by manual, to override it. And guess what? The emergency handle came off in my hand. And I'm standing on top of my car in the garage, holding the emergency handle with no way to get out of my garage. And at that moment, I just burst out laughing. And I just said, nice try. Because when we get down to the bottom of it, when we are being interfered with, the goal is to shut us down, steal our joy. You be quiet, you sit down, you don't say a word, and it comes at us in a million different ways. But that day it came so obviously that by the time I was there, I was just like, okay, this is ridiculous. So what I did is I opened the other side of the garage door. My husband was already gone. His vehicle's out. And I did this little shimmy thing back and forth with my vehicle in the side of the garage, back up, forward, back up, forward, back up, forward, like that, until I could pull out the other side of the garage. I drove over to the store. I parked, I walked in the door, and the phone was ringing. It was the gal from the courthouse. And she said, the judge has said, just fine. You're fine. Just have the week and we'll get you another time. I hung up and the phone rang again. It was my manager. And she said, Marnie, it is okay. I'm going to be able to be there in like an hour. She's going to be fine. I thought it was really bad, but it's not. It's just fine. So I'll be there in an hour. Everything had resolved itself in literally 30 minutes from start to end. But was that intense? Yeah. And whatever we're facing, when we've got stuff coming at us, if we just remember God is good and God can bring good out of every single thing that comes into our lives. So then we just have to start really looking for it. Okay, what good are you going to bring here? And I'm trusting you, even if I don't get to see it during this lifetime, I'm going to trust you that you're bringing good, that you're working for my good.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I bet that adrenaline rush was amazing at that point.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, this is apparently going to be a very good week, right? Well, okay, so I like to use the analogy. I like to use the analogy of the diving board. So when you go in a pool and you go up and you're going to jump off the diving board, you have a couple choices. You can walk out to the end of the board, stand there, and then just kind of plop off, right? And you just get what you get. Or you can go up to the end of the diving board and you can jump up and down, up and down, up and down, and then boom, huge splash, right? So a lot of times what's happening in the unseen world is instead of just a walk off the edge plop, God's like, no, this is going to be a bigger splash. We're going to do something big here. So it shouldn't surprise us that we have to go down a couple times, down and up, down and up, down and up to go in and do that big splash that he's got in mind. But it does surprise us. We are pretty sure that if we're doing something with God, that it's going to be perfect and painless. And that's just never, I don't ever see that in the Bible, actually. I never see anybody's life like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think that's something that a lot of folks need to understand about the whole Christian walk thing and Christian living is the fact that, yeah, you'll have access to God, the power of the Holy Spirit, and being able to have a peace that surpasses all understanding. But to know peace, you got to know war. So there's going to be wartime in your life that you have to deal with. And just that wonderful story earlier of all the stuff seemingly crashing down on you at once. And then fixing itself a half hour later. It's like, yeah, it could be just like that.
And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's long. Sometimes it's for your whole life. Your arm gets cut off and you don't have your arm for the whole rest of your life. Sometimes it's like that. And we go forward. And I always think, whether it's a physical arm or an emotional arm or the loss of a loved one or whatever it is, those kind of things are really rough because you just have to say, like Job, God gave and God took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Okay, how are we going to go forward with this? Because he doesn't always replace the chopped off arms. He doesn't always do that.
It's so true. It's so true. And besides, you can go to an arms dealer, but that may not be the arms you need. It's like
those arms dealers, they come in handy.
I see what you did there. But I know what is handy is some wonderful gems of wisdom for those who may be going through that time right now of setbacks, and they're like, man, how the heck do I deal with it? It's like, telling Satan he's gonna have a bad day today, but halfway through it feels like, oh darn, I guess I'm still waiting on him to have a bad day because it doesn't feel like it's working. Any advice for those Christians dealing with that right now?
Yeah. So I mean, it's all in our belief system, right? It's way down in the deepest heart belief. And you can't just change your mind and have things turn around for you. You have to ask God to help you change your heart. So do you really believe that God is good? Do you really believe that when Jesus died on the cross, he paid for all of your sins and that he has forgiven you as he says he did? Do you believe that he can bring good out of everything? Do you believe that the war with Satan is really already over? That we're in these final, I like to think of like a prisoner of war. So the prisoner of war is in a prison camp somewhere on foreign soil, longing to go home. And now the announcement comes, the war has been won. Your team won. You get to go home. But are you home in that moment? No, you're not home. You're still in a prison camp on foreign soil. You still got to get home, but the war was won. And that's how we are. We're still here. We're still in enemy territory, but the war has been won. And so when it's feeling like you're losing, you can't lose. You just can't lose because the war's already won. So that goes back to your heart, your spirit. Like, what do you really believe about that?
That's right. That's right indeed, because the faith will be tested. That's right indeed.
It
Yes,
will.
indeed. Yeah, that's how testimonies exist, right?
That's the only way, right? Yeah, a test. No testimony without a test. Yeah. And I love the word testimony too. Like when we give our testimony, you think about in a court of law and you're called to give a testimony. So, Dom, what do they always say to you? They always say, just answer the question, right? They don't want you to go on about your whole everything else, la, 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 la. They just want you to answer the question. And that's, as in our role as ambassadors of Christ, that's what we get to do. We get to answer the questions, and we don't have to think of everything else. And God says that in the moment, he'll give us the answers we need. If we don't have them, he'll give them to us. So it's really a beautiful way to live, to share our faith, to just walk in Christ, is to just go forward, living as a testimony, to sharing how when I went through this trial, Jesus was there with me. How was he there with me? What did he do? Answer the question. Just answer the question.
Yeah, that's right. Just answer the question indeed. That's right indeed. That is right indeed. So my goodness, so since this is far from your first rodeo, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know if there is a question I wish I could be asked more often. I think maybe since we're, thinking about Women's History Month this year, I just want to maybe encourage you gals that are listening of the importance of your life in this world. And I want you to remember Queen Esther. For such a time as this, actually, you have been placed on planet Earth for such a time as this. And if you hold up your thumb right now and you look at your thumbprint there, that is 1 inch of you. One little inch of you is so unique that it could convict you of a crime in a court of law. And that's only 1 inch of you. When God strung together your 3 billion base pair of DNA, he did it in a particular way. He made you so specifically you. And if you compare yourself to others, it's going to be a really rough ride for you because you're not others. I always say, if the bicycle that just won the race is feeling pretty good about itself until it sees the race car go by, and then that NASCAR winning car, that feels pretty good about itself until it sees a jet fly by. And that jet, it's feeling pretty good about itself until it sees a rocket fly by. And that rocket, as it's going into space, is feeling pretty proud until it sees the star go by. And what we realize is that God made us each uniquely. Some of us are supposed to be jet planes or bicycles or rockets or stars. It doesn't matter. What it matters is that you relax into the way that God created you to be. You look for the hole in your market. It might be in your home, in your church, in your community, in business, in ministry. It could be anywhere. Where is something you have, like Moses would say, what's that you have in your hand? What's something you have in your hand that you can use to fill a hole in something that's around you that you can see right now? That's what you're supposed to be doing. And that's how all of this all works. That's why some people are, chiropractors and some people are garbage men, and we need everybody. We need everybody. And so we're all supposed to be doing our part to make this world go around, and you've got a part. So if you're here today, it's because God wanted you to know your trials and troubles are completely normal. They are part of the providence of life on earth here on the way to heaven, where there will be no sorrow or no tears, and that you have a specific calling on your life. And you can figure out what it is today by just saying, God, what do you want to do with me today? And then go do it.
That's what I'm talking about. She's dropping that heat, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. My goodness. Especially the thumbprint metaphors. Like, oh, it's kind of true. Like, yeah, it can get you in trouble if you actually did trouble. At the same time, it's like, hey, that's only 1 inch of you.
Right, right. I mean, just think how unique we all are. And then and then I think for women, especially Dom, we really spend a lot of time comparing ourselves to other women. And it is just it's a lost cause. In fact, in the Bible, there's only one person we're ever supposed to compare ourselves to, and it's Jesus. So we recognize how much we need him. That's the only
Mm,
reason we're ever supposed to compare ourselves to anybody.
mm. That makes so much sense. It makes so much sense indeed. Cause yeah, it's exact. Because it really just keeps us down to earth where we really should be. It's like, hey, nothing wrong with having a little confidence, but still, like making sure you know your wonderful place in the magical universe. And heck, even I love also what you said there about relaxing in the way that God made you. Like that is amazing because that if a lot more people focused on that piece, it'd probably be a lot less nonsense going around, especially with comparison. Like that's one of the biggest talked about subjects out in the world right now, thanks to probably social media, in my opinion. This probably is
Mhm.
the reason. Like, oh yeah, this highlight reel, stop comparing myself to the highlight reel, but it's right there. I need to look at it and be like, yeah, she's doing so much better than me. I want those curtains too. Oh, that dress is fabulous. Why she got $1 million business? I want a $2 million business. It's like, hey, just relax in the way that God made you.
Right, right, right. And it's so hard to do, Don, because we all just have, we've got these pictures in our head of what it could be or what it should be. But do I have time to tell you one more little story?
Keep going.
Easter of 2020, everything was locked down. Everything locked down. Everybody's stuck in their houses. I mean, when we would go get groceries in a big city where we live, nobody on the road, two cars. I mean, it was so scary, freaky. And Easter's coming up, and God put it in my heart that I was supposed to do a concert on my porch singing original songs that I've written. I've written over 4 dozen songs, and some of them are on CCLI and sung around the world. But I was supposed to stand on my porch and do my original songs on Easter Sunday. And I was thinking, that is the worst idea I've ever heard of because I live on like a cul-de-sac thing. It's like nobody can get here to even drive by and see me or hear me. And nobody's going anywhere. So, what is the point of this? And I was supposed to do it. Then, what came is I was supposed to do it as a fundraiser for a mission I work with in Kenya, Africa. And I was thinking, okay, well, nobody's going to drive by or see me or hear me. And I'm doing it as a fundraiser. So that's just weird. So do I let him know? And so it was like, yep, just tell them what you're doing so they can pray for you. So I just reached out to the pastor and I said, I'm going to do this. This is just an obedience to God. I think it sounds like a crazy idea, but whatever. And maybe we'll raise $50 or 500 or maybe 5,000. Who knows? Whatever God wants to do. So on Easter Sunday morning, I go out and I stand on my front porch and I do this concert. And I did send notifications out to the people I knew that were anywhere around in case they wanted to drive by. Of course, they couldn't stop and stay or anything, but whatever. So I do this whole concert and, it was just like ridiculous. Every once in a while, a car would drive by and kind of stop and kind of look and kind of like a crazy woman up there like that. But Dom, do you know that at the end, over $5,000 came in. Now, you ask me, what does God want us to do? All he wants us to do is to be obedient. I have to tell you that the day after the concert, I was so mad and I was writing in my journal. I actually review this pretty frequently because I can remember how mad I was. And God was like, Marnie, why are you upset? And I wrote in my journal, I'm like, I'm mad because that was just ridiculous. I mean, nobody came. It was so stupid. And then it's like, yeah, well, so what did you want? And I'm like, well, if I'm going to go stand out there and do a concert, I'd like people to come. And then I said, besides, I did really poorly. I mean, I'm glad nobody came because I didn't even do that great of a job. And then he's like, okay, so what did you want? And I'm like, and at that moment, Dom, I realized what I had really wanted. I had really wanted to earn it. I had wanted to earn the $5,000, like to have people come and have me do a great job and to feel like I really earned it. And God just wanted to give it to me. He wanted to give it to me so I could give it to the mission in Kenya. And why is it that we have such a hard time doing that? Why do we have a hard time just being used by God however he wants to use us. He talks about that in the Bible. If I want you to be a toilet and somebody else to be a beautiful thing, just go with the flow, baby. So anyway, it's hard for us not to compare, even against just our own idea of how it's going to go. You're all the way back on going with the flow in the toilet thing, aren't you?
Yeah, you set that trap for me, didn't you?
I did. But I think what's so beautiful is that we really don't have to be performing for God ever, ever, ever. He really just wants to live through us and love us and have us love others with his love. And it's such a free place to live.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Folks usually like free. That's right.
Free's good. Free's so good.
That's right. Free 99. Best price ever. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. And how long was the concert? Like at least an hour, I would say?
Yeah, I think it was like 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours.
There you go.
Just kind of started and went around. I love songs.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. Well, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. It's a powerful story because it's a testament to sometimes you just got to let go of our ego and pride and do things, and out of nowhere, we'll get the actual result that we're looking for, even though the vanity metrics that we all tend to look at, especially with us being in business, like, oh no, the people aren't there, can't absorb the energy of the people, no, it's out of 5,000 people, no, hey, I made the money, sweet, but no, that people weren't there. But it's like, oh wait, the 5,000 for the missionaries, yay, spreading the gospel at a faster rate. There we go, that's what I'm talking about.
Whatever God wants.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right. Well, since you mentioned toilet, now I got to ask this random question. So you have this wonderful Heaven trilogy that came out in 2020, which really combined all three of the magical books in one that folks can buy on Kindle or head over to your site and snag. So if this wonderful book trilogy was a food item, what would it be and why?
A food item. Wow. Okay. It would either be egg or ice or water. So
Okay.
here's why. So it's 3 in 1, like the Trinity. Okay. So an egg is one thing, but it is shell, yolk, and white. And that's the Trinity. That's like God is one, but he's 3. Okay. And so this trilogy that I wrote, it's all about the same thing. It's all about recognizing that Earth is a round globe. Therefore, things happen on Earth in a certain way, whereas heaven is a cube. Things happen in heaven completely differently. It always bothered me, Dom. I could not understand why people always say we can't understand grace until we have understood sin. We can't understand up until we have understood down. But in heaven, there is no sin, there is no down. So how does this work? And the way it works is because heaven is not a sphere. Heaven is a cube, and it doesn't need to have tides in, tides out, suns up, suns down. It doesn't need to have those kind of things. Whereas here, the way that God set this up is to give us a choice. I called Earth the choosing place. So it's about heaven, it's about Earth, it's about hell, and it's about how Earth is the choosing place. And on Earth, we have sample taste tests every day, little tastes of heaven and little tastes of hell. And the question is, where do you want to go forever? So I'd say it's like an egg. Otherwise, it might be like water, and water is the same. It is vapor, like a steam. It is ice or it is liquid, but it's all water. And so that's my book.
Excellent.
Excellent. Scrambled, my friend.
Yeah, that's right indeed.
Oh, no,
Right
sunny
indeed.
side up for sure.
Oh, especially
Gotta
since
go
it's
sunny
heaven,
side
you
up.
know. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be since it's heaven, sunny side up. It kind of has to be. There's really no other
Can't be hard
option.
boiled.
Oh yeah. was like, oh, hard boiled, yay. We're all just round white circles
Ooh.
for no reason. Extremely bad for no reason. We're steaming hot. We're piping hot. Give us the ice.
You did it. You pulled it all in.
Yes, indeed. Aim to please and aim to reach. That's right. Puns will be turned out of anything. That's right. That's right. Oh, man. So, my goodness. So, with all this wonderful experience of being a Christian business owner, going through trials, tribulations, and making sure Satan has a bad day every day, and to really all the wonderful stuff you do, what's next for Marnie?
Well, I've got this summit coming up. So I think that's my very next thing. One thing I learned in 2020 with the COVID shutdown, that I know for most of us, it radically changed our lives. For me, it like radically changed my life. I was a speaker who could no longer speak. I was a coordinator of 1,000 speakers, none of whom could speak. So yeah, it really changed my life. And what happened is that I learned that I could just get up every morning. And so here's my job description, Dom. Do you want to hear my job description?
Of course.
Of course. So I am the personal assistant to the King of the universe. I sit with him in private consultation every morning and get my instructions for the day. And then I go during the day, I run all his errands and I look to him for all the resources that I need. And the pay is great, but the retirement plan is out of this world. That's my job description. So what I learned in 2020 was that I could just get up in the morning and I could just say, so what are we going to do today? Because actually all of the things that had consumed my days up until the end of February in 2020 were gone. And I just had a whole day open in front of me. What am I going to do? And you know that God just allowed me to do so many amazing things, including that concert at Easter, but so many amazing things during 2020 and early 21. And now things are back speaking again and coordinating speakers and all that is, coming back in a big way. So just excited to do every day what God has for me to do. And it's always exciting. And I love the word curious. Instead of worried about the future, I am so curious. I am just curious to see what God's going to do next.
There you go. That's actually something I forgot. Yeah, because that's definitely interesting. Because the speaking business, it took a big hit in 2020, and it's like, oh, in your case, it was exponentially hit because
it was.
So how was that pivoting phase? Because I'm pretty sure like pitching speakers to podcasts, and a lot of them probably didn't have the equipment, especially early pandemic where everybody bought a microphone. So
exactly. Yeah.
So how was that process?
I was just thinking of it this morning, Dom, because I was thinking, I don't understand really how my business, my ministry, whatever survived that. I don't know how it survived that, but it did. God just kept sending funds through different ways and kept gals going. And I mean, there's one of my speakers who she's a speaker and her husband was an event planner. And it's like between the two of them, I mean, they got just creamed. Not only did they not have all the income going forward, but they lost their shirts on stuff they already had planned. So I mean, you have this God who is so much bigger than all of the setbacks and all of the challenges. And as long as we press into him, and what God did is he really just changed their direction. And that's what he's done. I mean, I'm back now to doing this, but for the short term, it was a real big direction change. And a lot of the speakers found time to write that book that they had been thinking about for years, to study and come up with new topic angles, new programs. A lot of them did different things. Like some of them got part-time jobs with a church or with a ministry. I mean, it's just everybody had their own story. And again, that's back to the comparison thing. You can't just say, well, because you're a speaker, this is how it's going to go for you. It's not. It's so specific and individual to each person. But what I saw was that there were two kinds of responses. One response was the speaker who would stand under the door jamb in the earthquake and just stand there and wait for the earth to stop shaking. And a lot of those gals who did that still are standing there, or they were standing there all the way through 20 and into 2021. Whereas there was another type of response a response that was like, the earth is still shaking, but I have a mighty God and I'm going to keep going. And those gals really accomplished amazing things in 2020 and 2021. And a couple of my speakers actually still did over 40 live in-person events during 2020, even with shutdown. So, you can't say that just because there's a circumstance, it's going to go a certain way. What you can say is that we serve a big God. And as long as we're tapped into what he wants us to do, he will lead us down the path we're supposed to go.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Yep. That was definitely one of the major things. I like to call it the book boomer phase last year because that's really what happened. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, World
Mm-hmm.
War One and the whole baby boomer
Yeah.
things, troops coming back. Well, COVID came, and it's like, well, book boomer folks like, oh, been wanting to write this book for years. I got this time, might as well pop one out. It's like, oh, maybe I could pop out too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of that was really and I feel like the pandemic was also good for, there's a lot more churches that are now online,
Mm-hmm.
available. There's a lot more podcasts, there's a lot more resources online for people than there were in 2019, bottom line. So was it fun? Would I choose it? No. But did it have good in it? Yeah, there was good to be had from it.
Yeah, you can say that again. My home church, like we've been archaic for years on that. We've been around for at least, my goodness, I think 94, 95 years now. And like one of the things was just trying to get screens in the church and then having
Right.
to stream online, and COVID hit. It's like, oh, well,
Guess we
no other
got
choice now.
it. Right. It really did. It really forced all of us to get caught up with technology. And that's
Mhm.
a really good thing because God uses it all. So
That's right. God uses it in all indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in the year of 2022 with all of your knowledge and
mm,
experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
hmm. Yeah, I'd probably say that because my understanding of God now is so much, even though I've known him since I was 4, every single year that I walk with God, I recognize more how little he needs me to perform for him and how much he wants to do for me. So I would say to that 25-year-old, don't worry about getting your act all together and being so perfect and looking so good and having it all just right. Just focus on resting in Christ, knowing him, loving him, letting him flow through you. One of my favorite books I wrote in 2015 was called Flow Through Vessel. And the main analogy is the straw, where, for most of my life, I thought when people were sucking on my life, I had to come up with the ice cold water or whatever they needed to drink. And sometimes I would just run dry, Dom, and they would be getting like toxic fumes or gasoline or something. I mean, it's really bad. It stuck on my life, and it wouldn't be a good thing. And what I realized was that actually I'm not even supposed to come up with that at all. I'm just the straw. I'm the straw. I'm supposed to be stayed submerged into Jesus. And when people suck on my life, that's who they get. They get Jesus. And when they aren't getting Jesus, it's because I'm submerged in myself or bitterness or something else. And then that's what they get. But what they don't need more of me, Dom. They need Jesus. So I love being a flow through vessel. And I wish I could have known that when I was 25, but I'm glad I know it now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, folks. Be a straw, not a lollipop, y'all. That's right. That's right, indeed. Especially those classic lollipops where it's 2 bites and it's game over.
Yeah, right. Well, that's how we feel. I use the analogy of getting sucked dry. I mean, that's how we feel. We could feel like, oh man, you're just sucking me dry, man. Come on. But the thing is, when we're submerged in Jesus, can't get sucked dry. He's never out. Now, there are times when we're supposed to set a boundary and things like that, but when we're submerged in Jesus, we will never run out because we don't have to come up with anything. We just have to stay submerged.
There you go. That's right. Stay submerged. That's right. And the good news is there's no drowning involved either. That's right.
That's right. No drowning involved. That's right. The living water.
Oh, yeah. That's right. So for those who want to drink up of the marvelous Marnie and all the wonderful stuff that you have to offer, books and, of course, your wonderful programs, and heck, even be a part of the wonderful, heck, even, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a whole conglomerate, basically. Thousands of women, right? That you help support
Yeah,
women
women
speakers.
speakers. Yeah, womenspeakers.com. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So for those who want to learn more about you, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, just go over to my website, marnie.com, marnie.com, and you can find it all there.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Head over to Marnie.com, Marnie.com, the marvelous Marnie.com. Buy some copies of her book. Share with your friends, your cat, your camel. Heck, share with the cow, especially if it's Chick-fil-A cow, too. It'd be like, hey, it can, while it's holding that sign that says eat more chicken, it'll read the book, too. Read at least one of Marnie's books, folks. So definitely share the goodness with other folks as well. And subscribe to her wonderful online radio show as well on Blog Talk as well, where she's interviewing some wonderful, fabulous women doing the good work of God. So, any parting words before we close up shop, Marnie?
Well, I'd love to share my favorite Bible verse. I love so many Bible verses, but my theme verse for life is 2 Corinthians 9:8 in the NIV version. And it says, but God, and I love that phrase right there, but God. Just add that to the end of any sad story and everything changes. Okay, so, but God is able to make all grace abound toward you so that in all things, at all times, having everything you need, you may abound in every good work.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in and setting aside some of your time to listen to this wonderful podcast, Going North. If you really enjoyed what you heard, do me a solid and share this with your network and someone that you care about that would get something out of it too. And be sure to subscribe to hear more, and heck, even check out the backlog if you would like, because there are hundreds of episodes to choose from, and they just keep getting better and not butter.